Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Kazakhstan American Corners program. My name is Alina. I am coordinator of American Corner Petropavlovsk, and I'm the host of our meeting today. Thank you for joining us today. And today I'm happy to introduce to you our guest, Abigail Homer. She is a Fulbright English Teaching Assistant Program alumna in Kazakhstan. And in this session, Abigail Homer will show a presentation about volunteerism as a practice of providing time and skills for the benefit of other people and causes. And she will conduct an interactive discussion where you can share your personal opinion about volunteerism and ask any questions. And okay, now I give floor to Abigail. Abigail, please.
Okay, thank you, Alina. So as Alina said, I was a teacher in Kazakhstan this year. So I worked in Aktau. And I wanted to do some discussions. Hopefully everyone will have a chance to speak a lot today. And I thought volunteerism is a great topic, partially because I have a lot of experience with this, and I'll discuss that. But also because one thing that I've noticed during the pandemic is some of the news that is most optimistic and makes me feel good about our situation is news about people volunteering around the whole world. There have been a lot of really positive stories about people helping their community. So I will share my screen so I can share a presentation with you. We will have some discussion questions, but I will go ahead and put this on the screen. Can everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
So before I start, I would like to hear from you. So can everybody introduce themselves and say your name, what city you're in, and one interesting fact about you? So we can start. I see Nurjan is the first name, so you can start.
Hi, Abby.
Hello.
Good day, everyone. Good day, Alina. How are you?
Good day.
I am Nurjan. I think baby, I'm sorry, baby know me because we met in Aktau. And I saw Navi Karim here, I don't know. Нави Карин, слышите меня?
Да.
Вот, все понял я. Вот. I'm working now. I'm here in Urals today, but I'm working in a role. I was a visitor and a volunteer in American Corner Oral, and also in Astana, and sometimes in Almaty. So, but most time in Urals when I've been a student. So that's it. I don't know. Interesting. What was your second question? Interesting.
An interesting fact about you.
Interesting fact. I got the letter of appreciation from U.S. Embassy. So interesting. I think. I don't know.
Great. Yeah, that's very cool. Okay, who's next? Let's see. I can't see all names, but I see Din Mohammed.
Yes, that's me. Can you hear me?
I can.
We can see you.
Yeah, but my camera doesn't work, unfortunately, but you can hear me, it's fine, I guess. So, I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm from Astana, but I finished my high school in Petropavlovsk. Right now, I got stuck in Europe, in Hungary, because all my flights was cancelled. So Interesting fact. Last time I volunteered at World Robotics Olympiad here in Hungary. Yeah.
Great.
It's enough. Yeah.
Okay, and the next name I see is Anna.
Good day. Repeat the question, please.
Your name, what city you're in, and an interesting fact about you. It can be anything.
Interesting fact. No, I think that volunteerism is very very impossible and unusual for people, and I can think about me. For example, I try to do volunteering. For example, I gave charity concerts. I'm singer, classical singer, and in concerts we did fundraising for disabled children and other people.
Wow, that's great. It's always great when you can use your talents to help other people, I think.
Yes.
It's nice to meet you. And next I see Polina.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Polina. I'm 15 years old. I go to the school, but now in my free time I like to draw. For example, it can be different persons. And Anna is my mom.
Okay. Welcome. It's nice to meet you. Okay, who is next? Let's see.
Hey guys, can I speak a little? Hello from Aktau. My name is Maya. Glad to be here with you guys because volunteerism is my second name, you can say, because like by my profession, I'm a teacher of English, experience for more than 3 years. So before becoming a teacher, I volunteered a lot at American Corner in Aktau here. So I organized for other guys the discussion club, just speaking club, movie clubs, and we talked a lot. And in this way, I helped them to enrich their vocabulary, to help with the grammar. So I was so happy to be useful, to be helpful for them. And also I volunteered, I think most of here, the young people also maybe were there in Expo 2017 in Astana. So I volunteered there for a month. Also, I volunteered as like young people here by Jaswotan. We like helped the elderly people to fix the outside garden. Some people in our city, they need, especially the elderly people who got a little pension and who got no children to help them, and we just went there and helped there with the food or with, you know, as I mentioned before, some fixing jobs around their garden, who live the private houses, live in the private houses. So also I volunteered at Aktau. I remember exactly, but I guess in 2016 or 17, in our city was held kettlebell championship. World Kettlebell Championships. So I volunteered there for 2 weeks. I really like sport, and that was a really nice to share the same platform with other sportsmen. It was so great to see their great performance on the stages around the world. The guys were around the world, and so I guess I just mentioned the half of the volunteering jobs that I just did have ever done, and so
Yeah, that's great. I think your examples were really good because they showed how volunteering can be day-to-day things like with education, or they can be part of really big events like the World Sports Championship, the Kettlebell Championship you talked about. So
yes,
that's great.
thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, it's
Thank
nice
you,
to meet
Abby.
you.
Nice to meet you.
And who's next? Maybe Chopin?
Who wants? Okay, who wants?
Yeah, who would like to introduce themselves?
Yes.
Okay, maybe me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
So, hello everyone. My name is Baljan and I'm from Kostanay. And this year I have graduated from university, and nowadays I'm workless and searching for work. And about interesting fact, I can say that I'm fluent in 5 languages. So
Wow.
that's all. And
Yeah,
including
that's amazing.
including my mother tongue, Kazakh language. The Kazakh language. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. And who will go next?
With me, can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I hear you.
Good day for everyone. My name is Ludmila. I'm from Karaganda, Central Kazakhstan. I'm a musician, play the violin. I'm a music teacher, and second profession is English teacher. So I am also a volunteer because during 5 or maybe 7 years, I volunteer in Karaganda, and I'm a member of Karaganda Foundation of charity, and we led more than maybe 15 or 16 concerts for disabled children to gather money for treatment them. So we also let very much very huge amount of charity events. For example, we gather some different things, clothes and toys, and we bought them for other people, and gathering money we also got for treatment of children. I think that volunteerism is very great stuff in our life.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable for so many people. It's very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, yes.
And who would like to go next?
Can I?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi, Abby. Hi,
Hello.
everyone. My name is Asiyat, and I'm from Nur Sultan. And I would like to mention that my professional official career is going to be over soon. I don't know when exactly, but and then after I retire, I'm going to devote more time and efforts to volunteerism. And I plan what I want to do, the specific areas of societal, to kind of meet societal needs, is to work with elderly people and younger people.
Mhm.
I'm going to join some volunteer group, NGO, or maybe create my own, so that to help elderly people or people who are about to retire or just retired, because they are still, well, I want to help them to still to stay active after retirement and be useful, helpful to themselves and society as well. And also younger people, like people who finish or who just, you know, have no parents, live in, you know, orphanages or other places. They need a lot of help right at this point in their life, so that they can be adjusted and they can have, you know, better education, so that they can be, you know, benefit in this life.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's an incredible plan for retirement. I think it's really valuable because, of course, our lives don't end when our jobs do, and you can still benefit society a lot and support the people who need it most. So that's great. Thank you for sharing. And who would like to go next? Is there anyone else?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aliya. I'm from Almaty, and I would like to tell about, as previous lady told, about orphan children. About 5 months ago, I found Instagram profile. It calls Dara Nastavniki, and they offer to be a mentor for a child, for a teenager who is about 14, 15, 16 years old. So it's this project for 3 years to be a mentor, a friend, to show him something. For example, children who live there, they don't imagine exactly what the real life is. And the mentor should explain him, show him, say any advices or anything. So, and I would like to join it in September. So now everything is closed. And before that, I never was a volunteer yet. So, but now I understand that this is it's good for both, for people who are volunteers and for people who are get some help from another people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes people more kind, more careful, and you start to think about other things which you never thought before. The life is so not so easy as we think sometimes, and trying to find a good solutions for any problems.
Yeah, and even being a role model for those teenagers is really valuable. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And who is next?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I do.
Okay, thanks. Hello, everyone. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Riza, and as I can see from the slide, there is topic about volunteerism, yes?
Yes.
But unfortunately, I have never been a volunteer except of my university. I have graduated from my university 2 years ago, and there I have a chance to be to help around my department, you know, to teach some young kids English and other Kazakh language, and so on. And I really miss that time. And if there is any chance to join something like volunteering, because
Oh, I think maybe the connection was lost.
Mm,
Ah, she's back.
mm-hmm. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay.
You were gone for a moment, but you're back now.
Uh-huh. Okay, I will continue then. So I'd like to tell some idea that if there is any chance to be joined in any kind of group, I will love to do that, because this time especially during this COVID, I have a lot of free time right now before the school may start. And if you have any chance, please feel free to mention that, because when I was a student, I've been studying in Pavlodar, and there was American Corner, and I'd love to spend time there, but now I really miss that time.
Great. Yeah, sometimes even knowing where to go to volunteer is really important to get started. So hopefully we can discuss some ideas that will be interesting for you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you, Lisa. And who is next? Is there anyone else to introduce themselves?
Hi, can I go next?
Yes.
Can you guys see me? Hi.
Oh,
Yes.
Ramina.
Hi. Привет, Nurjan. Okay, how are you doing, guys? I've never heard about volunteerism as being a noun, because I always said volunteering. I thought that was a thing. Anyways, I have an advice, a piece of advice for visa, because there is a UNICEF, if you heard about them. It's a department of the United Nations, and they work with kids. So you can apply to volunteer online, because they have some programs. So you can do that in Kazakhstan. So you can work from home, and I don't know what actually they do, but they have programs working with kids, like directly, and they also have like spread of information regarding COVID and other things. Like, it's very comprehensive. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I actually have an example of UNICEF in Kyrgyzstan as one of their projects in this presentation. So maybe that will also inspire someone here. But thank you. Okay, who is next?
How many people here now?
Okay, Sergey, would you like to introduce yourself? I see you raised
Hello
your hand.
guys.
Yes, welcome.
So I'm residing in Almaty, and regarding volunteerism, so I'm mostly fundraising. So my last time was participating in collecting money for some relative of my colleague. So actually my colleague is living outside the city, so he's always staging some volunteering acts for collecting money for people who are living in rural districts of the country. So we actually were collecting money for artificial ventilation apparatus for the girl. But that had nothing to do in common with Corona, because the girl actually had some congenital problems, so she just cannot live without this apparatus. So we were collecting money for a new one. So that's the point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing for her life and her family.
Okay.
So I think we should get started. So if there's anyone else, I'm sorry that you weren't able to introduce yourself, but feel free to discuss when we have discussion questions. And for everyone who did introduce yourself, it's very nice to meet you. So as I already said, my name is Abby, and volunteerism is a really important topic to me because I've been doing it my whole life almost. I started when I was 8 years old, volunteering in the animal shelter in my community, and did that my entire childhood, and had a lot of experience that helped animals, which I was very passionate about, but also helped to make me responsible and hardworking and build skills that helped me later in my life. And before I came to Kazakhstan, I was something called an AmeriCorps member. So AmeriCorps is kind of like Peace Corps, but in the US. So I had this intensive year of volunteering full time with a very small stipend to be able to live. And during that year, I was able to help immigrants in the US to learn English and to find work, and to also help children who were learning to read, who were struggling. So this was also really valuable for me. So because of that, I always am inspired by what people do for their community without asking for anything in return. So I thought this was a great topic, and it's a topic that makes me optimistic. So I hope it will also make you optimistic. Okay, so first, I'll just talk a little bit about volunteering in general, and we can discuss. I know a lot of people here are passionate about volunteering, so I'm sure you have ideas. But first is just, why do people volunteer usually? So we usually call it altruism. So they do it for good. So volunteering is an opportunity to help your community, make friends, solve problems, learn a new skill, and also to get professional development. So I heard a lot of teachers here who also volunteer helping teach in American Corner or teach in your community. So these are also opportunities to kind of raise your skills in your profession. And then we also have a mandatory community service. So this is very common in the US. To finish school or to finish university, students and school children are often required to volunteer. So maybe they have to do 100 hours of volunteer service, and then they can finish school. So it's almost like homework. But they also assign community service to people for committing crimes. So often in the US, if people commit a very minor crime, instead of going to jail or instead of paying a fee, or maybe with these other punishments, sometimes they also have to do community service. So they might do something like helping in an animal shelter or cleaning parks, cleaning streets, that will help make the community better to maybe pay for their crime. So based on that, I have a couple of discussion questions. So let's start with the first one. So what do you think? Is it beneficial to force people to volunteer? So they have to volunteer in order to finish school or because of their crime? Or should they only do it if they want to? Should it be voluntary? And why do you think so?
Okay. If someone will say something, I will just wait.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just wait. Just wait.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
I think if that person who are going to force to volunteer is volunteering for the first time, we should force him because we want him to feel what is it like, and maybe he'll like it, and the next time we don't have to force him, and it's on his own.
Yeah, so maybe it's to create habits of volunteering.
Sorry, guys, what was the question?
Is it beneficial to force people to volunteer? So some people must volunteer to finish school, or they must volunteer to stay out of jail. So do you think this is effective or beneficial?
Yeah. If the person, oh yeah, okay, go ahead.
No, continue.
Yeah, I think if the person has never volunteered before, he might don't understand the benefit of it, and if we force him, he might understand, for example, emotional benefits. For example, he can feel better, happier, for example, and next time probably, and this feeling would motivate him to volunteer more and more, and next time he can volunteer if he wants. Yeah. Go ahead.
Maybe I can say maybe opinion.
Yeah.
Can I say my opinion?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Marjan.
In my practice for all my student life, when I've been a volunteer, I would say we do not need to force people to be volunteer, because we just need to motivate them and tell them what kind of useful thing we can get during the volunteering time. Because, for example, when I've been a volunteer, I've been actually not only in American Corner, I've been a volunteer in a society of petroleum engineers at university, in a leader of the club, and I would say we need to not to force people, we need to motivate people, I mean, or student people, or how to say, people, right, who studies at school. We need to motivate them to be better. I mean, motivate them that if they would be a volunteer, they would get more experience. They would improve their skills, because in order to improve your skills, you need to spend years of your life. Because you need to improve your English skills, to improve your communication skills, to improve your how to say, even much of different things. In order to get it better, we need to just communicate with the people. And that means communicating with the people. It's to be a volunteer. Not be afraid of people, to not be afraid of public speech, to not be afraid of. That means that we do not need to force people. We need to motivate people to feel better. That's my opinion about first question.
Yeah. So motivate and not force people. I understand. Okay.
I think that volunteerism absolutely is in our brain, our thoughts, and our heart. If you have enough free time for volunteerism, enough money, enough desire to do volunteer, so you may be a volunteer. But to force people to be a volunteer, I think that it is not beneficial, is useless. I think so.
Second question.
Can I have a go?
Yes, go ahead.
I was reading about punishing pedagogy, like as a pedagogic tool or community service, because I've never heard about forced volunteering, but I knew about community work that people had to do to stay out of jail as a punishment. I mean, I don't think it do any good for people who are being punished, but at least it gives back to a society because they do a lot of work that can be used by the public. So I think it's good for the society, but is it good for the people who are being forced? Because the psychological effect of being forced to do something is never any good. It doesn't give you any good. So I don't think people should be forced, but rather I agree with Nurjan. They should be encouraged, incentivized maybe in some way, because also kids can be taught that by volunteering you gain necessary skills in the future, and also you learn how to work with different people, which is also very important. So I think Nurjan's point was a good one. I agree with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Would anyone else like to share their answer for the first question?
I think the answer to the first question is looks like not so let's say not so long. I mean, the answer like if people answer to the question, the answer will look like not short, not so big. I mean, not so just short answer, and people do not know what to say also.
Yeah, it can even be yes or no. But everyone made really great points. I think Din Muhammad is right that we need to make some habits of volunteering for people to have this experience. But maybe force isn't the only way to encourage people to volunteer. I think that's a great point. And the second question, I'll actually skip this one because so many people already talked about volunteering that they're doing in Kazakhstan. And just for time, let's move to the next one. So I also have common volunteer activities that I could think of. And then I heard some of you add more at the beginning that I hadn't even thought of, like helping with sports competitions and having fundraising for singing. So instead of that second question, we'll just look at these activities and you can add to it at the end. So the ones that I know about are cleaning up parks and public spaces. So this picture is from an organization that I volunteered for in Seattle called EarthCore that brings volunteers from the community and also international volunteers who gain experience by working with parks and urban forests, so forests in the city. And they do things like cleaning up trash, removing invasive species of plants, so plants that harm the natural plants in Seattle. And then they also plant trees and natural species so that they can have really healthy forests, clean water, and nice parks. So it was really cool to volunteer with them. And then tutoring and teaching. I heard a lot of this when people introduced themselves. In the US, I know that almost any school would love volunteers. So a lot of parents or people who are retired, who have time in the morning, or college students, university students, will spend time helping teachers in the classroom, especially with special needs kids, or helping with after school activities. So you can share a special skill you know, if you have a foreign language that you have a high ability to speak, or teaching music, or teaching how to do something interesting for kids after school. So both in school and after school, there are lots of opportunities for tutoring and teaching. And helping animals. I mentioned this one because this was a big part of my experience growing up. You can help provide care for animals that are in shelters or are in veterinary hospitals. And a lot of people also foster animals. So if an animal is sick or it's very, very young and doesn't have a mom, so it can't survive in an animal shelter, there are people who take these animals home and take care of them until they're well enough or old enough to find a home. And even just advocating for pets, advocating for wildlife. If you care about animals, you can do research and see how you can help them in politics or with organizations. There are a lot of opportunities. And helping marginalized people. So the word marginalized usually means people who we say are at the margins of society. So this can be very poor people. It can be people who are discriminated against. They're people who don't always have their needs met. People who are elderly, people who are orphans. So there are a lot of ways that volunteers help marginalized people. They can bring them food and supplies. They can help people with their day-to-day struggles, or they can help people with crises in their lives, like hotlines where people with mental health problems can call to get some help. So it's another really important way to help. And ecological restoration. So this one I know from my time in Aktau is popular in Kazakhstan, but people who do things like beach cleanups, they try to clean the plastic from beaches and from water, and they can do a lot of things to help the natural environment out in the wild. Okay, so I have more questions now. So what do you think? Is volunteerism enough to solve social and environmental problems, like the ones that are these common activities? And if not, what are some other ways to address these issues? So besides just encouraging people to volunteer, how can these issues be solved in our communities?
Okay, can I go?
Yes, absolutely.
I like this question because, well, I always try to educate people about environmental issues because, well, to be honest, let's be honest, guys, we are the problem. We create social and environmental problems, don't we?
Yes,
so
I agree.
I think what we can do, we can just decrease the use of plastic, you know, like step by step, but all that can be done by educating people. So if you know how to do it and you share that knowledge, then you can kind of change the society. Because the thing is, my mom, and I think you all guys have that, plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, and in Kazakhstan, it's very common. Like we have one big plastic bag with shitloads of with loads of plastic bags inside. Да, у всех есть такой пластиковый пакетик, в котором лежат миллионы пластиковых пакетиков.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's terrible. Let's agree with that. And it's very bad for the environment. So what I do is I try to tell my mom that that's not normal, that the life is changing and we have to do something. I show her pictures with loads of plastic in the ocean and how animals die swallowing all that. And so I bought her some, material bags, and also like I don't buy straws, or I don't take straws in coffee shops or when I go out. So that's my contribution. And also you can change your lifestyle actually. So you can just eradicate plastic, take it out of your life. Also try to, I don't know, to be more environmentally aware, like, yeah, you should realize that all the things you do have a consequence on the planet, and you don't exist alone. You live in a complex world. So yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So even if you don't have time to volunteer to clean the plastic from a beach or to address something else, you can educate yourself and make lifestyle choices to not harm other people or not harm the environment. So that's really important, to educate yourself and educate others so you can make all those little decisions, even when you're buying things in the store. What is the best decision for the environment?
Can I talk?
Absolutely.
Well, in my opinion, it's not possible to solve all the serious issues of our society, like ecological and social, by just encouraging people to volunteer. And I really liked the Romis example, the previous speaker's example, about the usage of plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that if the government implements some policies, special policies like in Thailand or Indonesia, I don't really remember, when the government just banned the usage of plastic bags, and they restricted their usage by banning their selling. Like the supermarkets didn't. The supermarkets were required to sell their other bags that can be used like several times. And so I think that the government and people should, and other like organizations, maybe some social institutions should cooperate, and only with volunteers they can solve these issues. But just alone, it's not possible.
Yeah, sometimes you need the government and corporations to also make decisions for the better of social and ecological problems. I agree with you.
Can you hear me?
I can.
I think that there is not enough volunteerism to solve social and environmental problems. I think that our government, the government of our country, have to be a part of solving these problems, these global problems. And we also must teach our children, our students, to take care about our nature, about environment, and our society maybe. And all these problems must start from ourselves, from our family, from our childhood, from our children. And these issues are very global. So we have to pay attention for these issues from point of view of globalization, I think.
Yeah, there's a role for the local community, but sometimes you really need a global response, because we have global corporations, a global world, and it's a
cooperation
global
of different countries, of course.
Yeah. Okay, so we had answers about the government also helping to solve these problems, especially these global problems like ecological issues. And we also talked about the role of educating people, educating ourselves, maybe like kind of activism, social activism. So we're running a little short on time, so I'll move on. Riza, when you introduced yourself, you talked about finding opportunities to volunteer, that you liked to volunteer in university and you were looking for ideas. So I know that in the past, I've heard of these ways to find opportunities to volunteer. So some of it is asking an organization directly. If you know there's an organization in your community that helps orphans or helps animals or does something that you're passionate about, you can ask them, do they need volunteers? What can you do to help them? Asking family and friends, of course, this always is helpful. Schools and libraries and community centers and youth centers are great places to find volunteer opportunities. There are volunteer matching websites. I don't know if there are any in Kazakhstan, but in the past, in the US, you could search kind of like almost like a dating site or a job recruiting site, kind of like Headhunters, to look for volunteer matching opportunities. And there are volunteer organizations. So I mentioned that I was in AmeriCorps and Peace Corps. Sometimes there are these organizations. University and school clubs. I know I heard a couple of people in their introductions talked about university years and volunteering with clubs. And then you can also start your own project. So if you and your friends are passionate about something, you can start on your own without even connecting with an organization or an institution. So the other thing I wanted to share was just some examples that I saw of volunteering around the world during the pandemic and different ways people are volunteering, some of which surprised me. And even when I saw that isn't in this presentation, I saw some people are just volunteering to have conversations on Zoom with older people who are in quarantine. So it's very dangerous for older people to go out. So sometimes they're locked inside, they're very lonely. And there are even people who are just volunteering to be their friend, to keep them company. So there are big ways and small ways people are volunteering. So I collected a few examples. So one is helping with remote education. And UNICEF was mentioned. So this story is a UNICEF project. So in Kyrgyzstan, they are making video lessons for kids in school, and a team of 50 volunteers are transcribing the video lessons. So they're helping to write down all the information. So if anyone can't hear, if they have a hearing disability or anything like that, there are captions. So they're just helping to make these online lessons better in any way they can. So the picture is a volunteer named Aizada, and she's 21 years old, and she's watching her nephew just at home with him while she transcribes video lessons for the schools in her country. And spreading awareness. So this we talked about with ecological issues. So this is a volunteer in Indonesia who has been volunteering to spread information for people to know how to avoid infection. So talking about wearing masks, washing hands, and physical distancing, because in a lot of communities, this information doesn't reach everybody just on social media or watching the news. So this man is going to his community and making sure he can hand out some pamphlets that give people information. He can teach them and explain why it's important, how it's important. And I saw a lot about volunteer drivers in Wuhan during their really strict lockdowns. So there were teams of volunteer drivers who were delivering food and medicine to people who were really locked in their houses. They had the most strict quarantine in the world. And they were also driving doctors to work. They were driving the medical workers to the hospitals. And if it wasn't for these volunteers, it would have been very difficult for life to go on in this city during their strict lockdown. And I read about a lady in the UK named Jo Wilson, who started her own volunteer organization just to help people in her neighborhood, elderly people and disabled people who are most at risk to COVID. So her team buys them groceries, runs errands for them, helps with gardening and other tasks so that they can stay at home and stay safe. And one thing that I didn't initially think of as volunteering, but it is volunteering to test vaccines and treatments. So there are thousands of people now who are volunteering to have test vaccines. So this is hopefully pretty safe, but they're still dedicating their time to have all these medical checkups and be part of studies to help the whole world get past this, this issue, this pandemic. And oh, the other thing, donating blood. So I also heard that a lot of people who already had COVID and recovered can donate their blood, and the plasma from this blood can help people who are seriously ill. It can help them recover. So this is also a way people donate not just their time, but a part of their body to help other people. And also in Kyrgyzstan, this is another example from Kyrgyzstan, there are volunteers helping with the overwhelmed hospitals. So they give oxygen and first aid and help people when there isn't a place for them at the hospital or there's not a doctor to see them. And I thought this was really amazing because they're actually helping to save lives, but they don't have the huge amount of training and education doctors do, but they're trying to do everything they can. So it's amazing, and I'm sure that they have saved a lot of people and also experienced heartbreak as well. I wanted to ask you if you have any questions or if you saw any other examples of volunteering that were really inspiring.
May I read questions? We have some questions in the chat box, and I want to read for you. Maya Musafekova, already known what volunteerism is from young ages.
Шарики надоели.
Let's see.
Так же, как и...
So we have two mics on, but I think...
Please turn off your microphones.
Yeah.
Sounds.
I think maybe it's Alina, your mic is on. Or...
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. Volunteerism is from young ages, and you were kind part of Scout Girl. Maya Murzabekova asks you. You were kind part of Scout Girls.
Of the Girl Scouts. I was in the Girl Scouts, but only for one summer, so I wasn't really a Girl Scout. But I know that these organizations, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts in the US, do encourage kids to volunteer. So they're another organization where they try to encourage kids to spend time in their communities doing useful things. And it's not just Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts, but also churches. So religious communities often give kids opportunities to do volunteer activities. For me, it was not necessarily through either of these, but I know these institutions, religious institutions and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts really help kids learn how to volunteer, build habits to become volunteers.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Next question, Snezhana asks, is it possible to volunteer in the United States for foreigners? Is there any program?
There are programs. I don't know all of them, but I mentioned Earth Corps earlier, and Earth Corps also has an application for people from other countries to come to Seattle for 6 months and participate in their organization. It's volunteering and also training on ecological restoration. I'm sure there are many other opportunities. Of course, this year it's maybe uncertain because of coronavirus, because of COVID, but usually, yes, there are opportunities.
And next question, how do you think should the volunteerism be paid? Snezhana asks.
This is a difficult one because then you have to ask who will pay the volunteers, because usually we're paid by our jobs, and volunteering is often making up for the parts in our society that no business, no government will pay for. But of course, it's still very valuable. I do think that volunteer organizations do a lot of work to try to make it fulfilling for the volunteers to say thank you in a meaningful way, whether it's having an event to thank volunteers or making sure to build relationships, to give them gifts and gift cards. I've seen this as well, but I think it would be difficult to find a way to pay volunteers, but it would be great to pay people to do useful things in their community.
I think that initial idea of volunteerism is that this may not be paid, but this may be encouraged.
Mm-hmm.
Great idea of this of volunteerism.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and also if you want to get paid for doing a good thing for society, there's like social businesses, I think they called, like social economics, if I'm not wrong. So they work with issues that are very relevant for the society. So you can look them up.
Yeah, you can build a career in charities and NGOs, find a way to help your community as part of your career.
Abby, Din Mohammed asks, have you ever heard about Sweetheart Club?
Sweetheart Club? Mm-hmm. I don't think I have.
I'm sorry.
No, it's Green Heart Club.
Green Heart. Mm-hmm.
Green Heart Club. I haven't heard of it.
Since you've been to Seattle, do you know Yakima, which is in Washington State?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in 2017, I was there for one academic year, and I was a member of Green Heart Club. And we did volunteering jobs, and I made about...
Wow. That's great. So I'm guessing Green Heart Club, since it has green in the title, was it related to ecology, helping the environment?
Okay, if you have any questions to Abby, please ask. Turn on your microphone and ask.
Yes, any questions?
Yes. If you have no questions, we can finish. And
yeah, I have a question.
Okay. Okay.
It's good idea to talk during the quarantine time, to talk through the Zoom platform, and I think we could continue next time. I think, I don't know if you don't mind, next time to talk about another question topic. That's my question. I mean, could we talk about another topic next time with a much of people?
Nurjan, can I answer you?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm and Abby, we want to invite you to the next workshop. It's will be writing essays workshop. Yes, Abby?
Yes.
It could be, yes, it will be with Karaganda at 24th of July at 5 p.m. I can write it in chat box. 1 minute. Yes, it will be. Abby, you can maybe tell about this workshop.
Yeah, so so I will have a couple more meetings this month, like once a week. The next one is about essay writing. So anyone who is interested in essay writing, you're welcome to join, and it will be hosted by Karaganda. But the next 2 weeks, there will also be different topics. So I think the best thing is to check social media to see the different activities that American Corner has. I know that it's not just me, there are other people who are hosting discussions. So hopefully there will be a lot of interesting discussions.
6 p.m. is by Astana time, right?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes, for Astana time. Okay,
So
if there are no questions, we will finish.
Okay. Well,
thank you, Abby. Thank you so much for giving us this theme, a glimpse of this theme, and thank all of you for your participating. We want to see you next time, and please follow the news of the American Corner on Instagram and Facebook pages, and subscribe for our YouTube channel. It's named American Corners Kazakhstan.
Yeah, and I would also like to say thank you to everyone who came and participated. It was really interesting to hear all of your stories and your experiences with volunteering. And even though we have to meet on Zoom, so it's not always as easy to discuss as it is in real life. At the same time, we had people from all over Kazakhstan, from north, west, south, and someone in Europe too, in Hungary. So it was great that we have this mix of people that we wouldn't have otherwise. So thank you, everyone.
Can I add a little bit my volunteering experience?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, during my exchange year in US, we made a lot of volunteering jobs. And one of exciting things was building a shelter and tent for homeless people. We spent about 1 month to build it for them. And also volunteering is really common in US, and a lot of churches made big donations every month, and we delivered a lot of food to people who were in need. Also, I volunteered as a waiter a couple times.
Wow.
Yeah.
I actually have a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of volunteering is the most popular in the States? Maybe Mohammed can
Babysitting?
Yeah.
Babysitting, maybe?
Babysitting? Okay.
So I think it depends because people usually volunteer according to their interests. So like I said, I volunteered with animals especially because I love animals. But besides that kind of thing, like people who are really dedicated to the environment will volunteer for this. People who love kids will volunteer with kids. But one thing that's really popular is, especially on holidays, people will serve in soup kitchens. So soup kitchens or homeless shelters, people can go even one time to help with serving food and bringing food they have to donate. So this is really common in the US to help homeless
That's also
people.
very common in the UK. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right now is the best way to volunteer, I think, is to teach, maybe English, maybe other subjects online.
Yeah, it can be really valuable.
Okay, and now I guess we can finish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you. Stay healthy.
Yes, everyone stay healthy.
Stay at home.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
you too.
goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you.